Imagine you were told that you needed a certain drug to survive. You could survive without it for a while, but eventually, without this medication, you would die. So you go from pharmacy to pharmacy searching for this drug, but you can't find it. You're told that there's a wait list, that you'll have to wait for it. But you know that there's an abundance of this drug in the United States. And if you just paid a little bit more money, you could have access to it. And you're willing to do that because you need it to live. However, the US federal government won't let you. This is what's happening to patients on the kidney transplant wait list every day. I propose that the US federal government create a regulated kidney market in order to meet the demand for kidneys. Now I'll discuss the current kidney market and the wait list that we have, the harms that it's causing for American people, and then my solution, and finally a few of the common arguments against my solution. Now there are two main aspects we need to consider when looking at creating a regulated kidney market. Now the first is the enormous number of patients currently on the wait list for a kidney and the amount of time that they're on that list. Now according to the United Network for Organ Sharing, or UNOS, there are currently 92,000 people in America waiting for kidneys, and their average wait is between 2.5 and 5.5 years. Now that's an enormous number of people who are waiting for a kidney for a very long time. Now the second thing we need to consider is that we're currently incapable of seeking kidneys through alternative or unorthodox methods. In 1984 with the National Organ Transplant Act, and in 1987 with the Uniform Anatomical Gift Act, it made it so that we can only seek kidneys through altruistic donations, which is from a stranger to another complete stranger, family donations when you donate to your mom or your brother or your dad, and through deceased donations, when someone dies and they're an organ donor. Now there are three major harms that are associated with the lack of a regulated kidney market. The first is that patients who desperately need kidneys are unable to obtain these life-saving organs despite the virtually limitless resources. Now the Organ Procurement and Transplant Network estimates that about 13,000 kidneys are donated per year. However, this is only 13% of the wait list. Now, as you can see from this graph, the middle line shows the number of kidneys donated annually, and it's remaining relatively stable. However, the top line is the number of people on the wait list for a kidney, which is rising rapidly. In order to save lives, the space between these two lines needs to be diminished. According to Benjamin Hibbin, a leading kidney specialist, patients who've been on the kidney wait list for 5 years have a 60% mortality rate. In addition, 1 in 5 patients die every year while on the wait list. Now the second major harm is that while these patients are waiting for their kidneys, they have to be put on dialysis, a treatment to keep them alive, which has many harmful effects on their lives. Now the National Kidney and Urological Diseases Information Clearinghouse states that the side effects of dialysis range from relatively harmless things like low blood pressure and fatigue to very harmful side effects like heart disease, heart valve infection, and bone infections. In addition, USA Today estimates that in 2006, 20% of the deaths on the wait list were due to dialysis complications. According to one dialysis patient, they described the pain that they experienced as, quote, pain like a fever of the muscles, so intense, like nothing I'd ever experienced, end quote. Another dialysis patient, Deb Lustman, incurred significant financial setbacks because she had to spend 4 hours a day, 3 days a week at a dialysis center and was unable to keep her job. These patients are desperate for kidneys. They're desperate to get off the wait list, and they're desperate to get off right now. Now, the third major harm that occurs is that the government, insurance companies, and individuals are paying obscene and unnecessary amounts of money to keep these patients alive while they wait for a kidney. According to the American Association of Kidney Patients, 1 year of dialysis costs approximately $30,000. That's like buying a car every single year. In addition, in a cost-effective analysis done by the American Journal of Transplantation, they found that Medicare spends about $28 billion on dialysis treatments. That's roughly the GDP of Costa Rica. In addition, they found that only 0.5% of Medicare patients are on dialysis, but they account for 5% of Medicare costs. That's hugely disproportionate and very costly to the government. Now, in order to reduce these harms that I've described, I propose creating a regulated kidney market. Now, we would use the existing infrastructure in place through the United Network for organ sharing. However, instead of only having one list like we currently do that matches donors and recipients, there would be two. One like the list we currently have, and one for donors seeking compensation and recipients willing to provide compensation. This would greatly reduce these harms. We have an enormous supply of kidneys and an enormous demand, and in order to match them, we just need to legalize it. According to the American Journal of Transplantation, only 0.06% of eligible Americans would need to elect to sell their kidneys in order to meet all of our needs. Now, an eligible American is someone who's between the ages of 18 and 65 in pretty much perfect health. That means that 99.9% of eligible Americans could decide that they don't want to sell their kidneys, and we would still have more than enough to meet our needs. In addition, when a similar plan was implemented in the Middle East, they found that eventually there was no wait list for kidneys, and they had to create a wait list for donors. Eventually, the supply exceeded the demand. Now, though the benefits of a regulated kidney market are numerous, there are still those who oppose it, and these are three of the major oppositions to my solution. Now, the first is that a regulated kidney market would put the wealthy at an advantage and the poor at a disadvantage. While it is true that the wealthy would be more likely to be able to afford to buy a kidney, that does not mean that the poor are at a disadvantage. As the wealthy move off the wait list through buying these kidneys, the wait list becomes shorter and shorter. Altruistic donations and deceased donations are still available, and those who can afford a kidney are moving higher and higher up on the wait list. In addition, in the cost-effective analysis lab, the American Journal of Transplantation found that Medicare could potentially afford to buy kidneys for those who can't afford them themselves. They found that Medicare could cover up to $50,000 per kidney and still break even. They also found that the cost of a kidney would be nowhere near this amount, so Medicare would be saving money. Now, the second major refutation to my solution is that with monetary incentives, altruistic donations will decrease. Now, the altruistic donations that they're referring to aren't those between family members or the deceased, but solely those from stranger to stranger. And there's currently no data on the number of donations that are truly altruistic, but the U.S. Scientific Transplant Registry reports that only 15% of all kidney donations come from someone who is not deceased or not a blood relative. They also report that the vast majority of this 50% are coming from another kind of relative, someone by marriage, a spouse. Also, that another portion is made up by friends, someone you know that just happens to match. So the number of people who are truly giving altruistically is so small, it's almost insignificant, and would most definitely be offset by the number of people who would benefit from purchasing kidneys. Now, the third major refutation is that it's unethical to buy and sell body parts. However, it's currently legal to buy and sell sperm and eggs. According to a 2008 study by Carol Maxwell, sperm donors receive between $1,000 and $2,000 per donation, and egg donors about $4,000. Even if you think it's unethical to donate and sell body parts, that doesn't mean that the government should be able to regulate it and tell us that we cannot do it. In Roe v. Wade, the government ruled that a woman has the right to her own body and privacy to do what she wants. Why is it any different with organ sales? Why can't we purchase organs, and why can't we save lives? In conclusion, the current illegality of a kidney market is very flawed. Not only is it costing us thousands and thousands of dollars, but it's costing us thousands and thousands of lives. Now think back, if it was you, and you know there was something out there that would improve your quality of life and save your life, wouldn't you want access to it?